Hey everybody, it's Jason from the Texas Gun Vault, and once again I'm coming to you with another range report. And today's range report is actually kind of a special one. This is a range report revisit. And so this is a firearm that I have already done a range report on. This is the FN 502. And this particular example is in FDE, and of course it is the tactical version with the threaded barrel, suppressor height sights, and is set up for a red dot. And as you can see for this range report, I'm also going to be using a suppressor. And in case you're wondering, this is a Silencer Co. SWR Spectre 2, obviously chambered for .22 long rifle. Now, why am I doing this? Well, in my initial range report on the 502, a lot of people said I was not fair. I had a lot of issues, and most likely it was due to ammunition and potentially the fact that it did have a red dot on it. And I did talk about that in that range report, that the added weight on this slide might have given me some reliability issues. So this is my personal example where the original was one of my FFL friends who lent it to the channel. So I thought it would only be fair to do another range report on this. Mainly because one of the problems having a YouTube channel is a lot of people will only see one or two of my videos. They don't get a chance to see my magnum opus, my complete video collection. So they come in and just see a review of one gun and go, oh, you must be an FN hater, completely unaware that I own probably 7 or 8 other FN firearms. And so people will tell me I got it completely wrong. But before I get into this range report revisit and talk about this particular example and things I like and don't like about it and how it performed at the range with different types of ammunition, I first want to thank my Patreons. As you guys know, my channel is part of the great YouTube demonetization and gun channel purge, and all of my Patreons keep the lights on around here, and their generous contributions help me put out all of this content on a weekly basis. And I also want to plug Brownworks Incorporated. They are my ammo supplier, and Mark over at Brownworks is a master craftsman when it comes to making specialty wood grips for a wide variety of firearms and all different types of exotic woods, other materials. He can put any other type of color or finish on those grips with custom logos, anything to your heart's desire. I'm going to put a link in the description below and pin a comment, and I implore you, if you are looking for a fantastic set of wood grips that are customized to your desires, go check out Brownworks Incorporated. Their generous sponsorship here also provides all of the ammunition for these range reports, and it means so much to me. Mark over there is a sole proprietor of this business. It is an American company based in Maryland, and I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed with the quality of his fine grip. So please contact him, thank him for sponsoring the channel, and when you go over there and buy a set of grips, please tell him that the Texas Gun Vault sent you. All right, so as I mentioned, I had problems with the original FN 502. While every other gun channel and reviewer had very positive marks with this gun, I didn't have a great time. Now, I was running high velocity ammo. I think I ran Federal and CCI mini mags, but everyone said I was doing it wrong, that there was something wrong with the range report because no one else was having those problems, and that is fair enough. However, when I review guns, I only have a sample set of 1, but now, because I have this particular gun, I have a sample set of 2. I like the gun so much, and I saw everyone else's reviews. I really wanted to love it. I found one at one of my local big box stores, Shields, and I had to pick it up, even though my first experience was not that positive. So I got it to the range and wanted to give this thing a fair assessment. So we're going to start off on this range report. And by the way, if you want to know what my initial things that I liked and didn't like about this gun and comparing and contrasting it to the FN 509, I'm also going to put a link to the original range report in the description and pin a comment. So please go over there and check that video out, because I'm not going to repeat myself on a lot of that other stuff. I mainly want to talk about the reliability issues and running this with a suppressor and a couple other things about this particular example that I had some issues with. All right, so as I mentioned, this is my own personal firearm. I picked it up. It is exactly the same high quality, the same great looks as the original one that I reviewed. The only issue that I have had with this gun is the magazine catch. I can tell you that when it comes to changing magazines, this one for some reason feels a little bit chintzy. When I take the magazine out and I push that button, it doesn't really seem like the spring in there is very strong. It's a little bit shaky and wobbly. It doesn't really feel good quality to me. And when I insert a magazine, it's kind of loose. I don't really feel like that mag is in there really tight. I'm always kind of scared it's going to pop out, or maybe with enough force I could pull it out. However, I can't do that, but it just doesn't feel as good as the other example that I had. All right, so let's get to the first shots on this range report and see if this gun can redeem itself. Now, my first shots are going to be unsuppressed, and in case you guys are wondering, I am going to be using Armscore 22 long rifle, 40 grain, high velocity. So this is the stuff that I will be using. As I said, unsuppressed. My first shots will be at 7 yards. I'm going to go for 15 rounds, and we're going to see if the reliability of this pistol with this new ammunition solves a lot of the issues that I was having with the initial range report. So here's what happened. All right, so I felt like I got a pretty decent group. It was a little bit high. I know in the box they send you another front blade sight, and I think I'm gonna have to change it out to the one that's a little bit taller just to get that point of impact a little bit lower. I didn't bring it on this range trip, so I'm just gonna have to adjust for it. I have to say that the reliability of this gun is already way better than the other 502 that I shot, so most likely it is an ammunition issue, but also I was not running a red dot on this, so it wasn't weighting the slide down. All of my other comments when it comes to the trigger and how this gun feels in my hand is the exact same thing as the other video. So as I said, I implore you to go watch that particular video. So now I'm going to move on to the accuracy portion of this video. I'm going to set the target out at 15 yards, loaded up with the 10 round magazine, and see how my group opens up. I got to remember to compensate for this front sight being a little bit too low because I know that I'm shooting a little bit high. But let's see at 15 yards how this gun performs. All right, so luckily I'm still not having any reliability issue. I'm still using the Armscore ammunition, but as you saw, that grouping was horrible. I am shooting this thing so high. I'm definitely gonna have to change out this front sight. That was a pretty embarrassing group. I got a few there on the head, but I shot over the target. And yes, I was shooting for the head on that IDPA target. So I'm just gonna have to change out that front sight and learn to shoot this thing a little bit better, but it seems like at closer in distances, I shoot it just fine. All right, so now I'm going to move on to the defensive use, as I call it, portion of my test. Essentially, I want to load up a couple magazines and see how fast I can change magazines and get the gun back in action. Even though for 22, I don't recommend you actually carrying this as a defensive pistol, but I know some people will and will care about that. And I have to say, this is the only part of the test as compared to the original range report that I'm not as optimistic on because, as I said, this magazine catch just seems to be a little bit slow. It's a little bit chintzy. This magazine is not in there as well and as solid as the other example as I had. So I'm wondering if this is going to slow me down. Well, let's see what happens. All right, so luckily I'm not having any issues whatsoever, and this just goes to show that my initial range report, I most likely had ammunition issues. And that's something about all semi-automatic 22s, is that regardless of the fact that they might be even in the same model and made by the same manufacturer, you can use the same ammunition in two identical guns, and one loves the ammo and one doesn't. I just had a bad time with the other one. This one seems to be running great. As I said, that is the high velocity arms core ammunition. It ran perfectly fine. I was kind of surprised though when I was trying to shoot this thing fast, I just couldn't get a good rhythm with it. This trigger is a little bit on the spongy side. No, it is not some type of target or tactical trigger. It's just a little 22 trigger made by Umarex. So maybe that has something to do with it. I just couldn't get a good rhythm, as I'm sure you guys noticed in that particular video. All right, so now we're going to change ammunition and we're going to go to CCI standard velocity. Many times when I try to shoot these 22 pistols, these semi-auto pistols, standard velocity is kind of hit or miss. And yes, CCI is some of the better stuff, but because it's going at a lower velocity, sometimes it doesn't have the power to cycle the slide. Well, I'm also going to be running a suppressor on this. The high velocity stuff is supersonic. The standard velocity is subsonic. So I'm hoping with the suppressor, without the red dot, well, this thing should be Hollywood quiet and be pretty reliable. So let's see how this thing performs with this Silencer Co. Spectre 2. Well, I can tell you that is about as close to Hollywood quiet as you're ever going to get. And the gun ran great. So I am pleased as punch on this thing. One thing I did notice, however, when it came to loading the gun, sometimes the slide will hold back even if there's no magazine in there. There was something in there kind of rubbing. But the more that I've cleaned this gun, the more that I've shot it, it doesn't seem to have that issue anymore. But there were times where I would drop the magazine, pull the slide back, and the slide would stick back. But it just seems to be kind of wearing in and breaking in. Yeah, this is a brand new gun, so maybe that had something to do with it. But man, does this thing run great, especially with a suppressor. I'm telling you, if you get into the NFA world and want to get into suppressors, well, first off, when you shoot suppressed, you realize, why in the heck are these things even regulated? But if you are going to get into silencers, always start off with a 22. 22 or 9mm, but I kind of prefer a 22 because it's the closest you're ever going to get to the mythical Hollywood silent secret assassin kind of CIA agent sound. It is just so quiet, especially with subsonic ammunition. All right, so now of course I'm going to give my wife Becky a shot. She liked the original 502. She did have some malfunctions and issues with it, so I'm hoping now with a suppressor, with this ammo, and as good as it's running, she's going to change her tune and really come around to liking this particular gun. Well, as you can see, she obviously shot it better than I did, and that's awesome. I've always noticed that when it comes to shooters, women often are better shooters than men, and I'm not really sure why that is. I think it's just because when they go to shoot a gun, they're not trying to have some type of ego, they're not trying to be better than anyone. Well, I know some are, but for the most part, they're just focused on marksmanship, and their focus of attention is just on the target, looking at those sights, and they often shoot better. And my wife is an example of that. There are some guns she shoots great with, and I think this is one of them. And I have to say, after shooting it, she absolutely loved it. She admitted she changed her tune, and she said, wow, that thing is crazy quiet. And she did have the famous silencer smile. So I absolutely love that. She shot suppressed before, but I don't think she's actually shot 22 suppressed. And that is just so much fun, as I mentioned. So I'm going to go ahead and put one more magazine through this thing. I think it's all the ammo I have left on this range trip. I also want to mention something about this gun that I really like. There is a rubber O-ring on this barrel, and man, does it keep this silencer tight. Sometimes when you shoot suppressed, the silencer kind of wants to come off a little bit, come unthreaded. This thing stays on here super tight. I didn't have any problems with it trying to walk off. It's on there nice and solid. So I really hand FN a lot of credit for that. I like that a lot and would like to see that more on some of the other models like 9mm and 45, where sometimes they don't use O-rings. But anyway, we're going to go for one more magazine, and so far the gun has ran flawlessly, so I expect this last magazine to be the same. All right, so what are my final thoughts on the Range Report revisit of the FN 502, the 22 long rifle version of the FN 509. This one, of course, is just hammer fired. This one is FDE as compared to the original one that I reviewed. And of course, I was running it with a suppressor. Well, I have to say, this gun finally runs the way that I would expect any FN firearm to run. It ran great. It's a lot of fun. I think I can shoot it pretty accurately. I'm just going to have to work with that front sight. I'm probably going to just change that out. I will say though, shooting it with a suppressor, it did bring the point of impact down just a little bit, so that was pretty nice. And the reason they do have these really high sights is to co-witness it if you are going to run a red dot. But I do think if you're going to run high velocity ammunition with this and run a suppressor, I don't think the red dot is going to weight down the slide too much, and you shouldn't have any reliability issues. The only issue with this particular example that I don't like is still this magazine catch. It just feels a little bit chintzy and cheap. I haven't had any magazine fall out, but I will say there have been a couple times that I did insert, especially the 10-round magazine, and it didn't quite seat. I could hear it click, but it didn't stick. So right now it seems to be working okay. Maybe it's an issue that it will wear in over time, but I kind of feel like this mag catch is just not super high quality, and I don't know why I'm having issues with this one. I don't remember having issues with the other one, so it could be just this particular example. Now, as I said, you need to go back and watch my range report on the 502 originally, and everything I said pretty much is the same as it would be on this range report. The things I like, the things I don't like, with the exception of this one runs so much more reliable, and it could be just the ammunition. And as I said again, the ammo I used for this was the Armscore 22 long rifle high velocity and the CCI standard velocity. And they both ran great, no issues, no failures to feed, failures to fire. So this gun ran great, and I'm really happy that it is part of my personal collection. So there you go, the Range Report revisit. So I guess I gotta give this thing a star rating. Well, I gotta say, 4.5 stars out of 5, because I know people are going to ask. And the only reason I deduct any points is that magazine catch. So anyway, If you have only watched this video and are not a usual subscriber to my channel, please know I don't bash FN. I know that sometimes people, as I said, will watch one singular video and just get some idea that, oh, this is just some type of hater, completely ignoring the fact that I have 5 or 6 from that same company that I absolutely love. I always try to be as fair and honest and give you guys all of the information and share my experiences here at the Texas Gun Vault. That is my mission. So there you go. I hope these videos help people in the future. And so once again, I want to thank my Patreons and Brownworks Incorporated. They do so much for me here on the channel. So once again, please go check them out. Please support my sponsors. Brownworks is awesome and amazing, and Mark does such a fantastic job. So there you go. My Range Report Revisit FN 502. What do you guys think? Is the performance of this gun what you expected? I sure hope so, because I'm really happy with it. So let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below. And as always, thanks for watching.